Despite holding a number of shining records in the bantamweight division, including highest significant strike accuracy at 62% and most strikes landed per minute at 7.67, champion Suga Sean O'Malley is often labeled as overrated, frail, and a fighter who only reached the top of the food chain because of Dana White privilege. But if he's not as good as he says he is, why have all of his cocky rivals failed to beat him? The truth is, O'Malley has been underestimated from the start when he was fighting mid-tier guys like Thomas Almeida.
Yeah, he needs to show that, he's a good fighter, but he needs to show him, prove it.
O'Malley proved how vicious he was when the two stepped inside the cage, where Suga was too spicy to handle for Almeida, who was bruised and battered and nearly finished twice before finally being put away by TKO in round 3. O'Malley beat his foe so badly that his body was hurting from all the strikes he threw.
My shins hurt really bad. Those are my initial thoughts.
Is that just from all the kicks you threw?
Yeah, just all those kicks.
A few months after taking out Almeida, O'Malley fought promotional newcomer Kris Moutinho, who despite being a heavy underdog, was oozing with confidence.
I'm the most exciting fighter that this roster is gonna have on the card. I'm coming to bring a war the entire time, and win, lose, or draw, there will be blood, and I can't wait.
Moutinho's prediction was spot on, because it was a war and there was blood, but it wasn't the type of war Moutinho expected. Throughout the entire fight, O'Malley absolutely obliterated the newcomer by landing more than 200 significant strikes on him. Moutinho was tough as nails, and he put up a great fight by continuously moving forward despite absorbing a ton of punishment. But unfortunately for him, after almost 3 complete rounds of absorbing Sean's fists, the ref finally stepped in and he lost by TKO late in round 3. To put the complete mauling into perspective, O'Malley had the 3rd largest striking differentials in any bantamweight fight ever, with 160. Moutinho didn't appear in the post-fight press conference because
That kid's probably at the hospital right now and seeing triple, so.
Nevertheless, he was still in high spirits when he talked to the media a few days after his fight.
The only thing I fear on this planet is God, and Sean O'Malley isn't him. Sean O'Malley isn't him. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. He beat me. He beat me up a little bit. Hey, next time I'm gonna my next fight I'm gonna improve. I'm gonna fix all these little flaws, and you're gonna see a different person when I step in that cage.
Next up, it was Raulian Paiva, who thought O'Malley was good, but not good enough.
Yeah, he's got a lot of skill, and he can be a threat and a good fighter against certain fighters. But with all due respect, I don't see a threat, because I think that he has, even though he has the skills I have, he's a young guy and he's got a lot of energy, but I have more, and my matchup against his is even stronger. And I think I feel more comfortable about the abilities that I have and my skills compared to his. So yes, great fighter, but I do think that I come out on top of that, on that tail of the tape.
When the cage door closed at UFC 269, Paiva found out that not only was O'Malley good enough, but he was also levels above him in terms of skills, as the American picked the Brazilian apart before finishing him with a big right hand followed by ground and pound in the first round. It was a perfect performance.
First round knockout, can't complain. That feels good, feels real good.
After taking out Paiva, O'Malley locked horns with Pedro Munhoz, which would conclude with a very controversial situation, because halfway into the second round, the fight ended in a no contest due to an accidental eye poke, to which O'Malley thought that Munhoz milked as a way to get out of a fight that he was losing.
He robbed me of a highlight reel KO that I trained 12 weeks for, because I was getting the better of him. I was checking his leg kicks. His leg kicks were hurting him. 100%, dude. So when he had the opportunity to say, "Hey doctor, save me. I can't see."
However, Munhoz was persistent that he could not continue in the fight, taking to Instagram to share a medical report stating his injury, as well as another post stating that he had suffered a corneal laceration and he couldn't see for 20 minutes after the eye poke. So anyway, Suga moved on and blew his critics out of the water by accepting a seriously dangerous fight against Petr Yan, who, like the rest of the MMA community, was sure that he was going to put a bad beating on Sean.
Do you feel skill-wise like he is on your level?
Целостно. I don't think we're on the same level. I believe I'm better fighter than him and in all aspects, you know.
Do you feel like this fight is mainly going to be on the feet?
Которые я не могу решить вопросами. I don't believe the fight will be on the feet the whole time. And even like on the feet, I don't believe he have some superior skills than me.
The Russian also couldn't help but roast O'Malley for the way he dressed during the pre-fight press conference.
He says that you're not 5'7", that you're 5'5". Can you confirm that you are 5'7"?
It's not about the height. Just look at him. He's like a whore on the side of the road.
When the cage door closed, Petr Yan found out that O'Malley was a lot better than he had originally expected. The American went toe-to-toe with Yan and hurt him a couple of times in what was an absolute war, which was razor close. After 3 rounds of battle, O'Malley was declared the winner by a split decision, which came as a surprise to many. Yan was upset too, and he went off on the judges in a tweet that said, "Fuck the judges." Dana White thought it could have gone either way.
Did you think O'Malley won? How did you score it?
It was one of those razor-thin close fights. I could see people saying Yan won the fight. I could see people saying O'Malley won the fight.
Despite the debate, O'Malley silenced a lot of his naysayers who thought he was overrated or that low kicks and wrestling were his Achilles heel.
I mean, I'm sure there's still people out there, but I think I answered, kick his legs was the first one. Now it was, well, you can't just kick his legs. We'll take him down. Peter kicked my legs, took me down, still won. So, I mean, yeah, I'm answering questions little by little.
O'Malley answered more questions a year later when he challenged Aljamain Sterling for the UFC bantamweight title at UFC 292. Suga Sean was the underdog, and many, including the champion, expected him to get choked out because of Aljo's high-level grappling.
My thoughts on Sean O'Malley is that motherfucker is frail. Frail. You think if I could take down a short, stocky guy like Henry, who's actually a gold medalist and has good takedown defense, what am I going to do to Sean O'Malley? Like, let's be honest here, guys. Like, yeah, he's been promised the title shot. He opted not to take the title shot and gave Henry a chance to come back and chase history. I beat Henry. Now there's no more running. I guess Daddy Dana is letting him out the playpen and allow him to come play with the big boys. So it is what it is. If that's the next guy, it should be. He's been protected for so long. This is going to be, his second biggest fight. The one guy he fought, he poked him in the eye and then paraded around like he was a champ. Then had a split decision win over Yan. Really close fight. I'm not taking nothing from him. That was a split decision fight. Welcome to the big leagues. Let's saddle up and let's do this. Let's see who's really the #1 guy and see if he's all talk or see if he's all hype.
O'Malley proved that he was in fact the best in the world by stopping Sterling's takedown attempts and frustrating him to the point that he was forced into overextending and losing his form. That's when Sean connected with a big count ground and pound to win the belt.
Yeah, it definitely feels surreal. Feels like I'm I'm playing a video game and I just got cheat codes and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna knock out Aljo on the second Saturday, and it's just like, it's crazy.
Sterling experienced the agony of defeat.
It sucks. I mean, I'm not gonna lie about that. There was a lot coming into this fight. The quick turnaround, everything. But I was happy to do it. No excuses. Sean, yeah, he did a good job of the one thing I knew he would be good at, and is that step back counter. And yeah, it's just a good shot, man.
A few months after bagging the UFC title, O'Malley put it on the line against the only man to have beaten him, Marlon Vera, at UFC 299. The two fought for the first time at UFC 252, where Vera TKO'd O'Malley.
Mentally, I didn't feel like I lost to that guy. I didn't feel like his skills were better than me, and that was 3.5 years ago, and now I'm defending the title against that same guy.
Yep.
So, you know, we get to see who was right and who was wrong. The reason I say it like that is just because how many thousands of kicks have been thrown since then, and how many times has that happened, that same nerve, that same spot. It's a very rare thing, so I always called it, you know, a fluke and blah, blah, blah.
And he got his chance to prove that at UFC 299, where he faced Vera once again. Having already beaten O'Malley, Vera was supremely confident to ruin his arch rival's night once again.
I'm gonna get in there and I'm gonna drill a hole to his face, and then what? There's no talking in there. I know how strong I am, I know how good I am, and to be honest, I just feel that I'm gonna make him quit. I feel I'm gonna break him and just give him a reason to go home.
Despite Cheeto's hefty claims, he failed to put his money where his mouth is, as O'Malley battered him from pillar to post, landing an almost bantamweight record-breaking 232 significant strikes on him, with a record striking differential of 141 strikes to win by a comfortable decision. Vera was devastated following the loss, and understandably so. As far as O'Malley is concerned, Cheeto doesn't like him, but he couldn't care less.
At media day, you said, you know, we'll never be buds and this and that, but did you talk to Cheeto at all? I know I saw you guys like bump fists, but was there anything else said between you guys?
No, nothing was said, just a little handshake. I think he told Tim we'll never be friends or something like that, but, you know, it is what it is. I mean, I'd be jealous and hate me too.
The next time O'Malley steps inside the octagon, he'll likely face wrestling ace Merab Dvalishvili, who thinks he can knock the champ out.
Don't be surprised I may knock him out, because he's very competent and I have some skills. I'm getting better and I'm training, and I can knock him out, O'Malley. I believe so.
And following O'Malley's win against Cheeto, Merab even approached O'Malley backstage, telling O'Malley to call him out for his next fight.
Congratulations. But you should mention my name.
Oh shit, I didn't know who that was.
Man, you have to fight.
So will Merab Dvalishvili put his money where his mouth is? Or will he just be another opponent on O'Malley's humbling list? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel and check out another one here.